All right, hey Acolyte Realize family, I'm your host Gabby Zakara, and we're joined today with the beautiful Catherine. Catherine's created a program called Creative Kinection for women and children who've suffered childhood abuse, sexual trauma, body dysmorphic problems such as eating disorders, and it's based in the foundations of therapy, education, and leadership, which she's found it to be the key three pillars really when it comes to recovering and healing from these types of things. So Catherine, thanks so much for joining us. It's awesome to have you on and chat to you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Gabby, so much for having me. It's a pleasure to join forces with you today.
Awesome. Yeah, no, such a pleasure. Like the pleasure's ours, and I'd love to just kind of get a bit of a backstory, really, about the Creative Connection. Why does it begin with a K? Is there a reason why they both begin with K's? There must be. And also just kind of how, like, what brought you to doing that, really? But tell me your story.
Yeah, well, I'll start with the first question. K and K, kinetic energy is kind of like what I started off with because when I was a young girl, I was in therapy my entire life for the traumas that I suffered as a young child. And that did enough, but I had a high emotional intelligence and a very mature emotional background. So it got to a point at a very young age where these guidance counselors and these therapists were like, well, I really can't tell you anything more because it seems like you already know the answer. So, like, we'll just kind of sit here and you can just use this as a venting circle. And I was like, all right. And that only does so much. But I was a dancer since I was born. I was riding horses since I was born. I was doing yoga since I was like 6 years old. So movement has always been a part of my life. And I'm a kinesthetic learner. So this idea of kinetic energy and creative play, being the way in which traumatized people can reintegrate themselves. Because when you get to a point that's so traumatized, or if you have trauma before your language center is really developed, then you can't completely express why it is you feel the way that you do. So I like it not to be just talk therapy, but this idea of kinetic creative play. And so since kinetic energy and kinetic learning is starting with a K, I just thought I would make it a little bit creative and do K for creative and kinetic and just kind of show that uniformity. And yeah, it all kind of started as a dream from a young girl, um, where I just remember, really suffering a lot in my adoptive family. And there just grew a time where I would bite down on this wooden windowsill in my room at night, and I was really in pain and I wasn't getting the services that I needed. And so I just like couldn't scream, I couldn't express myself, I couldn't say the pain that was felt. So I bit down on this windowsill and I just looked up at the moon sky with all the stars and I just said, you know what, God, thank you for making me strong enough to continue on and make me strong enough to be able to take this burden off of other people's horror stories. And so that way they don't go to commit suicide or they don't try and kill themselves because of that weakness or because their trauma is too strong. And so ever since then, I've kind of been figuring out how to follow this destiny and how to make sure that traumatized children and women have a safe place where they can communicate in all of the ways that communication is created, and become a reintegrated portion of the natural life.
Mm-hmm. God, that's so gorgeous, like that you went from like that kind of place and you had the mindset of please make me strong so that other people don't have to suffer from that. Like, it's just a really beautiful kind of trait to have. And to be going through something like that, and all you're thinking really is, God, I hope no one else has to go through that. Like, so it's like, honestly, it's like, it's really awesome. And look what you're doing. Like, you've started off your own, like, you've got your own almost sanctuary now. Yeah, like, so you just started out. Tell us a bit about the sanctuary that you've got going on, and kind of what kind of healing people could expect if they were to go there and things like that.
Yeah, well, the Kreative Kinection program is an 8-month process. I was kind of fluctuating between should I make it 8-month, 9-month, should it just be indefinite because healing is always an indefinite process. But I decided to go with 8 because 8 in numerology is this idea of infinite, and that is, our healing journey. So yeah, I came up with 8 months of being in this creative kinetic program so that way people can know it is the start of an infinite journey of healing. And people from anywhere in the world can come and embark on their healing journey. My favorite saying, and like my saying of life, is healing is an evolution of consciousness. I can't remember who is the original sayer of that, but it is like my life motto. And so right now, we're just getting the first cabin built in the chakra, which is the piece of land. And then next, we're going to build like a big outdoor patio where there's an outdoor kitchen and stuff, because that was always like in my mind as a youth, like the street barbecues and stuff were my little glimmers of hope and happiness. So having this big outdoor play space and utilizing the trees to have like rope swings and rope ladders and things like that to encourage adult and children play is what is like the whole focus of this. And so yeah, it's an 8-month program where anyone can come, and further down the road when we do have these children coming and living on our chakra, that people who come for their 8 months of healing will be the house mothers to the broken children, or the forgotten children is what I've always called myself. And it's so that way we can go back to the roots of where this project started, where we take our own trauma and we use it as a catalyst to heal the world by healing ourselves. And so having specialized people come down who are willing to show selfless devotion to their own healing journey and to the others that are around here is what I really want to establish, to like recreate a bridge between humanity and nature.
Mm-hmm. And the 3 pillars that you were talking about then, education, was it like healing, and leadership? Why do you think that, obviously people, when they go through these different types of traumas, healing's like one of the big ones everyone knows, but with the education and leadership, like, explain kind of like why you think those are just as important as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that there's not enough opportunities for mental health awareness given throughout the US. I can't say about other countries, but I definitely know the US lacks in mental health. And so educating about mental health empowers people to take mental health into their own mind. Education also coming from an alternative education perspective, not just let's sit at a desk and you're going to listen to me and a couple of other teachers lecture for 7 hours during the day. That's not education. And sadly enough, I feel like that's the destruction of the creative right brain. And so the world and the society now is just asking everyone to use half of our brain's capacity, which is this logical aspect. And while we're becoming more and more logical, no one can really express what they feel. They can't express their intuition. They can't express things that make them feel vulnerable. And so it's preventing people from connecting from one another. The first form of therapy that was ever created in humanity was back in the indigenous tribes of circle dances, where people have this idea of there's this huge raging fire and everyone's bringing music and everyone's dancing and you're like, la, 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 la. This was the first form of therapy because it is a groupal experience where everyone is saying, okay, let's move through this. Let's send our prayers to all of the elements that sustain us throughout the day, and what we lack is being expressed throughout all of us, and we're supporting one another in this dance. And so it's education, and it's education in like a holistic perspective, an integral perspective, so that way we can connect with the communal consciousness. But leadership to say, okay, I am me, separate from ego. I see that shadow self of me. I see that portion of me, but I'm saying myself, no one can knock down the people in my life that are around me because we are unstoppable. And so that idea of education and leadership, empowerment, is to connect the individual and the communal together. So that way we can try and have a wholesome future.
Mm-hmm. Have you since been doing this since you started on the years of your journey, have you noticed things are actually improving, or are they just kind of looking like they're staying the same at the minute, with the child trafficking and the different kind of communities that you're kind of working with in Peru? Have you noticed more being done about helping women and children who are vulnerable? Or
no, it's very separatism. Even when I went back to the US for a short time, I was doing so much for bringing awareness to human trafficking, both in the North and South Americas. And people would just turn a blind eye to me. It was either I was either saying stuff so much where they thought it was unbelievable, or people are so whatever that they didn't care. They don't have something within their heart saying, wait, our children are disappearing. 60% of the foster care system is going into human traffic, and those are only reported cases. There's another 20% of gray area. That means about 80% of our children are unaccounted for, and they're being stripped from families that are told that they are not worthy of having children. That's not a solution. That's not a solution. So that's why looking at that system and seeing that it is making children lost, it is literally selling off our future. It said to me, this has got to change. Something is not going on here. And so it is about it, that's why my whole program really was okay, so we have to make sure that we give an education to these children, because if we can't find their families, if we can't return them to their home countries, if we can't provide to them the sense of family that I longed for my entire life, then we need them to know that they are the most wholesome and integral part of our future, so that way they can find another child and they can say, hey, I was once you. Let's buck up and let's change the world, because this needs to be understood. And we need to utilize, we just need more people to understand. We need more people to see that this is a problem. This is a global problem. People know that India and China have a lot of human trafficking. No one thinks about the US, though, as having human trafficking. Literally, the Super Bowl, which happens every single year, is the worldwide biggest seller and exploitation of children globally. And people don't even think about South America. It's like everyone turns a blind eye to South America. You think like if people will go to Africa and help in the orphanages, but no one really sets foot in South America. That's why when I was like, what, I know what my destiny is, but where's my destiny going to manifest? I tried for years and years in the US. And the problem there is too deep in the government that it's not it's not going to be revolutionized right now, and much less so with Joe Biden in office. And so I had always gotten these visionary messages to go to the Amazonian jungle, and when I stepped foot in here, the racism of being a white woman that I received was unlike anything I've ever seen in my life. Here they call white people pashtakos, and the literal translation of it means exploiter, and more so than that, human trafficker, an organ trafficker, a child trafficker, a person who puts bodies on black markets. And so that's why Peru now considered non-compliant, because when other countries like the US say, hey, you have our child, can you return our child? They are non-compliant, meaning they will not send the children back to their home country because they feel so traumatized by the white people who have been doing this for years. When I went into the depths of the Amazon jungle, they hadn't even seen white people, so they were terrified to see me. They all called me Pashtako. They were horrified of me, and they were just saying all the time. They would just like say slanders to me, and they would just be like, when's your white posse coming to like knock us all out, genocide, and stuff our children with money and leave them dead on the side of the river? Like, just questioning all the time, how many children am I going to take, and all this kind of stuff. So it's very sad, because South America is like a forgotten continent, and there's so much that needs to be done here. And my goal is for this project, that's why it's so important for me to bring people in from all around the world, because I want them to learn Kreative Kinection. I'm not going to put copyright on it, because I want people to take this curriculum and share it all over the world, because I believe so much in my curriculum transforming lives, because I've seen it in the Florida Dream Center change 33 children's lives. I've seen it in the streets of Peru changing more than 100 children that I can count. So I know it works. So I'm not going to copyright it, because I want people to come here. I want people to learn the curriculum, and I want them to say, Kat, thank you so much. I'm going to go back to Australia. I'm going to go back to Asia. I'm going to go back to I don't know where. And I'm going to implement this for our children, for our women, for the foster care system. I want government officials to see this and say, let's do this here. I almost had a breakthrough in Florida with the Florida Dream Center supporting me, and I almost was spearheading for the state of Florida a human trafficking case management team, but then COVID hit, and so the foster care system took an 8% decrease in funding, so they weren't going to fund me at that time. So that's when the Florida Dream Center just said, you know what, go back to Peru while COVID's going on, while everyone's trying to get the world back together. They're gonna keep pushing that, and then when they're ready, I'm going back to Florida with the whole bigger, stronger group, and we're gonna make sure that this goes globally. So I'm glad that you're in the UK. I wish that you would come learn it and you could take it back to the UK.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask actually about like someone like me, because I like with the way that my life's set up and the things that I'm doing, I could, but it's not my path to go and like, create a retreat and like live the life and build that kind of thing. But obviously, like, we all want to help with the world issues, and like we don't want to just be sat doing nothing. Do you think that, like, because obviously we're all connected as well consciously, like, is there inner work we could be doing on an individual basis that could actually help, like, change the negative aspects of, you know, the people who are suppressing and those who are involved in the child trafficking and stuff? They're like a dark shadow representation of what the work that we've not yet done ourselves. Is there any, like, could we be doing that work? Is there more that someone like me, who can't necessarily go and do, like, create a whole project, is there more that someone like me could be actually doing to help?
Yeah, there's so much that people could do without having to come down and learn my curriculum or doing the healing work because maybe they're too afraid to yet. Maybe they're still in that denial phase. A lot of people can reach out to the local foster care system that they have, or systems like that that are in other countries. And something as small as ask for a roster of children's birthdays and get people to buy children birthday gifts and make sure that a child has a birthday cake on their birthday. You don't have to know where they live, you don't have to know their age or anything like that. So you could just ask for lists of birthdays from the foster care system and be facilitating and offering gifts and celebrations to these children, because they literally get thrown from house to house in a black bag. So sometimes you'll see nonprofits collecting backpacks and things like just toothbrushes and soaps and stuff. But it's really important for these kids to know that they're not just thrown out, and that's what they feel. Children over 8 years old, 8 to 18, they, if they are given a permanent housing, they are on average moving about 11 houses per year. So that's like once a month they're moving from house to house. And that's really sad. So they're not given a lot of permanency. So reaching out to the foster care system, offering gifts for the kids, trying to like force, like in the US at least, they could call up state representatives. Like Arizona is one of the leading states for deleting case files of children who have gone missing after 6 months. So things as simple as calling state government and saying, where are missing children? Change this law. Stop allowing our children's files to be deleted. Things like that. Signing protests. A lot of people say that doesn't work, but in the US, at least in Florida, because it's such a temperamental state where it goes blue and red, I've seen a lot of protests work there. Across the globe, it is going and finding out where these orphanages are and trying to do something special for them. Even if it's just saying, like, hey, local grocery store, all the food that you're throwing away because it's unsellable, can you put that in a special box, and once a week I'm going to be bringing it to an orphanage, or local farmers and doing that same thing. These are just things that you can do. Also times, looking at the homeless people, if you see women or children that are homeless, it's a pretty high chance that they're getting human trafficked. So instead of saying, oh, she's just a crackhead, you know, she's just got herself wrapped up into bad things, it's important to go and ask her, like, hey, are you okay? Like, are you being trafficked? Like, what's going on? But honestly, the first step of a survivor's journey is being rescued. It's really important for people to realize, for survivors to step into society, they need to have more support from the community. A lot of people, because sex is taboo, but sex is what sells everything, they are being told, like, you're taboo, you're dirty, so you can't come back into society. So a lot of girls just say, you know what, it's easier to be trafficked and get raped by 10 different people per day than it is to go back into regular society.
That's so powerful, and I'm so glad that you shared all that, because really, really interesting, just for like anyone who's listening to know like how much they can do. But if you like did see someone on the street and you weren't, like, we wanted to help them out or whatever, or even if you suspected someone in your family like who has come, and they seem like they might have something else going on, or even just a friend or anything. How do you like approach, and just like, you'd feel awkward like to just straight up and ask someone, are you okay, is this stuff happening? Because like you say, it's known as to be quite taboo, and you almost like don't want to make them run away, or you don't know best how to approach it so that they actually open up to you, as opposed to don't want to open up to you. So how would you like, any advice for that?
Yeah, I'm an Aries, so I'm a pretty blunt person. I have found many women out on the streets in Florida and out on the corner, and a lot of them are having dissociations at that time, So like the woman who, if people often have this idea of like the crackhead woman, right? Which is usually this woman standing on a street corner screaming things that aren't really coherent, maybe missing some teeth, not really in clothes that fit her and stuff like that. That is a tall tale sign of being human trafficked. She's having a dissociation because she has been drugged so long in her life, and she's either been thrown out because she's pregnant, or she's been thrown out because of the dissociations, that the drugs no longer keep her sedated enough for her to be raped by 10 different people a day. So she's really not great. She's not in a good situation. I always go up to those women and I say, come on, we're going up the street. I'm going to go buy you a smoothie. We go to the smoothie and I say, look, I know you're being human trafficked. I know it. I know that this is what happens. And we're going to go get you the resources. So I have two options. I'm either calling CPS right now, or we're going to the Florida Dream Center. If you have a Florida Dream Center or a community like that, then that's the first step you want to do, because the CPS, Child Protective Services, that is what gets them into the foster care system, and that's the broken system that's human trafficking 60% of the kids. So they're going to go straight back into that problem. So and then if you call the police really aren't going to do anything. They might hold them for one day, but that's really not going to do anything. So usually I say, here's my number. I usually have like a Google Voice number that they can call, and I give them like almost a little business card, my number and my name. I also have the abuse hotline on there. In Florida, I give out one that also has 211, which is like a health, like a line where they can call and they can get all kinds of resources covered for them. So I have like two important numbers that they can call, and then my number. Usually I'm like a liaison for these women, so that way I can go up to bat at the abuse hotline or the domestic abuse hotline and 211, and I could say, hey, this lady needs services. I also knew where the place for 211 is, which was the Gulf Coast Jewish Families and Community Services. So I would often just bring them to my work and I'd be like, hello, let's get this woman some services. So I kind of just, I trust them a lot. And people say, well, aren't you afraid that she's gonna have a knife on you, or she's gonna kick you out of the car and steal your stuff? Okay, let her, because she needs some services. And if she steals my shit, or if she tries pulling a knife on me, police are coming and she's going to get more help. I'm not gonna press charges because I know what kind of human I am. So I'm gonna make sure either way she's getting the services that she needs, because that is what any decent human should do. And if you're scared to invite them into your car and do something like that, that's fine, but you need to at least carry like the abuse hotline, local hot numbers that they can call. And like, it's really it's really important just to know what kind of resources are around, what organizations are around, so that way you can just give them like a little info card. Because if nothing else, if you can't do anything else, if you just have a business card that's purely for women and children in the street who are being human, then you can give them some resources. It's up to them. It's less likely for them to get the help if you don't initiate the help process for them. But yeah, that's like the basic way to help, is just truly know all the different resources and organizations that are around you, and make sure that that you can give them names and numbers.
And with all those, then, like, how do you know which like lines you could trust? Like, because you talk about the foster care system, like child protection services, just putting them back into the system, and then again that they're not escaping it. So like, how do you even know who isn't in on it? Because it seems like a lot of people in the world are like, there's always, it seems to be every kind of institutions infiltrated with people who are always going to be trying to keep it alive, because how much money people make from it. And obviously what's come to light recently, and I don't know if you've worked with many people who have talked about the satanic side of things and this whole religious reason why people do it as well. But yeah, like, are there any telltale signs where you'd go, oh, hang on, I know not to send people to this company, or is it literally just doing your research?
Well, I think I have the shoe in that, because of my problems when I was adopted into an abusive family. I did call CPS. The school system that I was in fourth grade did call CPS. But my adopted mom, had so much money, she was able to pay off the CPS persons and have my file canceled. So I went straight back to her abusive ass. So because I am a foster care failure reinvented, I can go to these organizations and I say, look, you failed the system. You failed. You fucking failed. You did so much wrong and you couldn't even save me. So why should I tell people to come here? Why should I bring children to you? And I have them walk me around the entire building, and I have them tell me from president, vice president, and I meet the entire staff. And I said, look, okay, so you're saying that you're going to do better for them than you did for me? Prove it to me. How many children are staying in this program? How many children are graduating, are finding a house on their own, finding a job? How many children are you actually saving? And if they can't show me the numbers, then I'm not handing out their business card. Then I'm not bringing children to those businesses. Because I'm the type of person who will just put people in my car and drop them off at an organization that I trust in. And so it is a lot of homework. And if people aren't willing to do the homework, then they are the people that are preventing children and women and men. I just don't work with men because a lot of my trauma came from men. So I'm not ready at that point yet to work with men. I hope in the future I can. But right now it's just women and children. And yeah, if they're not willing to do that kind of research and go meet the organizations, go to the organization fundraisers that they have and be a part of it, then those people are the reasons why human trafficking victims say, I'd rather be trafficked than get back into society where they don't believe in me.
And no one would ever want to know that they were the reason why someone would rather put themselves in that situation. Like I was saying to you earlier, people, like, especially in like the UK, we're all just so distracted in our own lives, and we just like don't like. I just think we should really, really try more to do more, not just on a personal level, but also just for each other as well. And so, have you had any women that you've met since, since being able to like give them the right numbers and stuff, that they're like, wow, you've literally turned my life around? Or have you not managed to get in contact with anyone yet that you've been able to get the help for?
I know that I've changed a lot of lives. I don't get to follow all of their journeys through from start to finish, but I know that I have changed the lives of 33 children. I got 33 children to graduate through Kreative Kinetic, through Kreative Kinection, and sometimes they'll send me emails, but they're kind of young, so it's usually like their aunt or their mother, someone writing on their behalf. There are a lot of other women that I've just dropped them off at organizations and they've had my numbers. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of women go back into trafficking or things like that, and I would re-find them, same corner, months later, and I would say, hey, what happened? And they would say they didn't believe in me. And she would just cry and cry and cry. And at that point, I can't say go back to the organization. So I just sit there. I be a friend to them. I make them breakfast. I give them clothes, and I give them a list of job opportunities that are in the local area. And whether or not they take those up, I don't get to see because they are so embedded into the streets. But I know I still change their life for at least 2 moments now because I've seen them at least 2 times in the street. Even if they aren't changing who they are because of my aspect, I have to know in my heart that I'm changing them, because if I don't, I'm not going to have enough strength to keep going with this destiny. When I've worked so hard for so long in my life, but it's been such a solo trip, even though I'm praying every day, please, please, God, please bring me a group, please bring me a community, an organization who is ready to just divulge 100% into this. That's not where I'm at yet. So if I continue to think, well, I'm not doing enough, I'm not changing people's lives, this isn't working, then this is never going to escalate and grow. So, little wins are wins. Little moments of change are, in a collective consciousness, big moments of change. So I just have to keep that faith, or else this isn't going to grow and people aren't going to know about human trafficking.
Definitely, like even just being on and having this conversation and showing so many different people all these things that people would have no idea actually go on, and all the facts and statistics that you would just, again, like you just wouldn't believe. And we know about the butterfly effect. Even just like saying one kind word to someone on the street, even nothing to do with what you're trying to fight for, is literally still having such a massive, beautiful, positive effect on the world and making it a better place for everyone. So, I mean, you're doing awesome. And like, so your retreat, it's kind of like out in nature, isn't it? And you eat a lot of like raw food yourself, you were saying. And so the retreat, is that going to just be full of like healthy food, like connecting to nature, like escaping from like the city life, escaping from like almost reality and connecting back to true reality, true nature, and our true selves?
Yeah, I have studied yoga my entire life, so I'm pretty well versed in the Vedic knowledge. And they actually say that the concrete jungle is illusion, is Maya, because that's where everyone's sense gratifications are being met, and their ego is in full control, and they're dwindling in their connection to consciousness. And so yes, I am such a natural girl, starting from the inside out and the outside in. Because I know my body is earth, I know my blood is water, I know my respiration is air, and I know my metabolism, as well as my passionate drive, is this fire. And the consciousness that I am is the ether. So I am earth. And we are living within Maya so deeply that people don't know what seed goes to what food. They don't know what the food looks like when it's in its natural form, because they only see it at the grocery store in a processed form, in a chopped form, in a this, that, or the other form. So the idea is to have everyone come who comes and give them a seed and have them over 8 months germinate this seed, transplant this seed, plant it, and watch it grow, and show them that this is them. Sometimes they're going to be watering a wood tree, and the wood here in the jungle is some of the slowest growing wood in the entire world. And so people who have the hardest trauma, they're going to get a wood tree, and they're going to have to see that the growth is so slow, but they are the strongest parts of our society, because they know the darkest depths of society, and they're saying, look, I'm still here. You guys tried to knock me down, but I'm still here. And so the whole idea is really to reconnect them to the natural world, so that way they can reconnect with their natural selves, the self that is pure, because we are all pure conscious beings, and we're just living in the densest reality. We only have awareness of our densest reality, which is our earth body, the physical body. People sometimes have consciousness or awareness of our our pranayama breath, like our breath body, our energetic body. But most people just know our physical body and our mental body. And so it's important to take them through these 8 months of knowing how intricate we are, and teaching, some of this quantum physics to them, because quantum physics and spirituality are so closely related, if not the same, just used with different terminology, that it's important to empower people to say, wow, I now understand quantum physics, so I'm like a super intelligent being. And it's like, yeah, you always were. We are so much more than this dense reality. We are this pure consciousness, and nature shows us that we can rehabilitate ourselves no matter how many times people are planting ginger and pineapple, which is depleting the earth's surface within a year. We can we can still cultivate, the natural jungle once more. And so it's to utilize nature as the greatest teacher and the greatest healer, and get them to understand plants. And in the jungle too, there's like every weed that you step on is like a medicinal plant. So getting them to be like, okay, so this is medicinal, and know that their power is medicinal. What they know, they love, is going to serve and heal so many people in life. Nature is just the most pure reflection of ourselves. And that's why I chose to build this retreat center, or to start to build this retreat center in the Amazonian jungle.
Yeah, no, God, I love your analogy about the seeds in them, and different like levels of growth, and how people blossom differently, and everything to do with that is just so beautiful. And do you are you going to be teaching like kind of spirituality as well? Because obviously once you start connecting with nature and yourself, you start to realize the oneness in things, and you start to almost like feel there's more to this life than just what we've been told. And also, do you find that like the people you meet struggle with believing that there's a higher power who's all loving and all knowing, if they've been through such horrible things?
Yeah, that's really a great question, a very profound question. When I was studying dance movement therapy in Eckerd College, I took a lot of philosophy classes, a lot of religious study classes, where it was comparing a lot of the different religions. There's this one thing called oída terapia in Spanish, but it's oída therapy, which is actually a specialized therapist who understands different religions and can say, oh, you're Christian? Today I'm going to be speaking all about Christian therapy, and then have another client come in and be like, I'm Hindu. And then that person be like, okay, well, we're going to give you therapy from a Hindu perspective. So I definitely hope to have one of those people in my bag of chips for the project. But other than that, yes, I'm going to, hold on one second. But yes, I am going to be teaching different philosophical perspectives. What I'd love to do is like each time I'm doing a creative connection is have like almost a different world leader, like religious leader, come and do like a talk therapy for people. So like the big names that you can see now are like Amma, she's like the hugging monk, um, and just like different people like that. I know in Peru a lot of people actually are Bible thumpers, and so I've had to learn a lot about the Bible as well for this purpose. And so yeah, I'm open-minded. I have studied Hinduism quite a lot. That's pretty much been like my main religion my whole life. And I love it because there's actually one Vedic text where Krishna, which is the supreme personality of Godhead, he says, look, I accept children of all religions because they are just focusing on one part and parcel of me. So I love that because and I want that acceptance from everyone because we're all speaking about God consciousness. We're all speaking of consciousness. I know that learning about the flower of life and how that's the blueprint of our DNA and the blueprint of life can help make people feel more connected. Also, that idea of the intricate circles, the circles being interwoven, can help people feel we are all interwoven. And maybe there's more people who have unspoken traumas that I can now assist because I've handled mine a little bit better. And you know, these spiritual teachings were the foundation of therapy so many years ago. Now people are afraid to talk about spirituality and religious studies because it like when you start talking about a religion or spirituality, it's almost like, well, if you talk about that, then you say that all these other portions are wrong. And that's not it. I want everyone to know that they're accepted here in every single way, with every single belief, because we are all talking about our most outer level of our aura, which is that collective oneness. And so, yeah, the chakras, the Merkaba, the tree of life, all of these things, it is all different ways of how to speak about the energetic system.
A last thing that I'd ask you then is, obviously, like you're obviously well spiritual, so you know a lot of stuff, and I wonder, like, whether you ever connect with the celestial beings as well as, you know, so deeply with Mother Earth. So the moon cycles, for example, or take the moon, the Earth, and Venus. People say that one's a daughter, one's a mother, and one's a grandmother in terms of energy and wisdom and things like that. Do you ever kind of connect those different energies and work, you know, with the women that you work with and the children, and kind of like teach them those different types of things?
Thank you so much for asking this question. This is why I've really wanted to start with women and children, because I want the chakra to have like this red tent idea, right? This red tent idea is like these menstruation camps where women in indigenous tribes, when they were menstruating, they would go off from all of the rest of the tribe, because when we are menstruating, we are the most powerful beings. Our womb is literally detoxifying all of humanity's illusions every single month. That's why women and prepubescent children are the most magical creatures. And so yes, the four archetypes of the wild woman, the wise woman, the maiden, and
The crone, is it?
and the inner child, right? Yeah, the crone, the wise woman. And so showing them we have these inner seasons every single month. The pre-ovulation phase, the ovulation phase, the premenstrual phase, and the menstrual phase. Each one of these different phases is a different archetype, is a different woman archetype. And that's why Peru, living where I am, is so beautiful too, because the night skies here are like nothing I've ever seen in my life. There are billions and billions of stars. And like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I looked into the darkness that day when I was experiencing so much pain. And I said, darkness, thank you so much for making me strong enough to keep going. And thank you for letting me take the burden off of others. Because I realized at 6 years old, I understand the darkest parts of humanity. And I am looking at a night sky and I see all of the stars, and I can focus on my glimmers of hope. I can focus on the people around me who keep me breathing, who keep me going. And so having that be this idea in the chakra, in the land of, at night having a little bonfire and looking up and talking at night about the different archetypes and empowering us through those archetypes and giving our menstruations to the earth so that way we can see all of the Maya that humanity needs to purify from, giving it to the most natural part of nature and helping it reestablish a jungle that is completely deforested because of the exportation of goods for humanity's sustenance. I feel like that's the most magical thing. And I feel like women learning how to offer like the most like what people say is the most like disgusting part of being a woman. I think like showing women, all right, we're going to collect this and we're going to offer it to nature and we're going to see how that helps our plants grow more and grow bigger and grow faster. And we're going to re-tap into that and get ourselves in the cycle so that way we can see the tides of the moon are pulling us every single day and night and reconnecting with that divinity. I feel like the moon spirit is like the number one guide, ancestral guide in my life. And she's the one that has told me ever since I was a young girl, this is your destiny and don't you dare get distracted doing something else because your power is this. So the moon and teaching of those celestials and understanding the actual constellations in the sky is really important. That's why the psychosomatic sanctuary really is focusing on small cabins and an outdoor patio, because what I want more than anything, like what my dream is to have a huge telescope where we can look beyond the galaxies, where we can look to the farthest reaches of the Milky Way, and we can say, aha, that's where we belong. That's where we come from. Our consciousness reaches all the way over there. People always say, do you believe in life on other planets? And I'm like, hell yeah, I do, because we are one consciousness. My consciousness is living on 6 other different galaxies right now, because that's what we all are. And we are just right now the broken parts of consciousness being isolated in this galaxy, in this planet right now. But we need to, as dense material, shape up and start vibrating once again, because we're honestly doing a poor job at being atoms.
Yeah. That's so awesome. Like literally everything you've said, you're so inspiring. It's awesome. And it makes me just kind of, like I'm just really looking forward to sharing this talk with people. And I just feel myself, like in my own life, there's times where you just kind of feel like you're having a stressful day and things like that, and then when you speak the way that you do, it's just really inspiring to think, you know what, like I could really just get on with shit more, or I could like really just I don't know, just be that better person that you can be. And almost like being kind to yourself, being like loving on yourself on that journey, but just being your best self really. And you almost like represent someone that I would look to and be like, wow, I'd love to be like that, which is quite cool. So I just wanted to say, like, thanks so much for coming on. Like, everything you said, so awesome, honestly, and I know everyone's going to love watching this, so I really appreciate it, Kat.
Well, thank you for that. And I just want to end then with this saying, I don't want people to think I'm perfect. And I don't want people to think that I'm perfectly healed just because I'm giving the Creative Kinection program to people. I know that I still have things to do. And I'm probably one of the most traumatic people will ever meet, because I believe in expressing the emotions. So like my poor son. But if I'm like sad, I'm going to be super dramatic about it. I'm going to be like going up to the chart, like, let it out. Just let it out. Let people see that vulnerability. Let people see that emotion. Let that emotion shake people up, because people don't know how to feel anymore. They get sense gratification from their telephone and from buying what they want, but they're not getting the sense gratification of their own feelings. So if you look up to me, thank you. I look up to you. But understand that to look up to me, you have to understand that I am one of the most broken people who is the most wholesome person. Because everything in life is a paradox. And if we're not living in that paradox, then we're not understanding why life is happening. So it's important for people to know, if you're going to look up to me, I've got my own bag of shit behind me, but I'm doing the very best that I can to utilize that and turn it into something that can present the world. And that's what I just want people to understand, is healing is an evolution of consciousness. We're not going to be perfect every minute of every day, and spirituality and the love light process is not saying that we have to deny the anger, that we have to deny the sadness, that we have to say, well, let's just get up and get over it. We have to integrate those parts of us and express that as well, and show that we are a completely versatile set of emotions. And that's why we are a little bit more wholesome. It's because we are not afraid to share all parts of ourselves. I'm not going to sugarcoat who I am and make myself be seen as this perfect creature, because then I'm going to make so many people feel like they're failures because they're not getting the results of happiness all the time. That's a lie. And I'm not going to tell people that they're going to feel great 100% of the time by going through Kreative Kinection. I'm going to say, look, you're going to face shit all the time in life, but at least now you'll know how to turn that bag of shit into something that smells a little bit better.
That's hilarious, and a perfect way to end it. So, thanks so much again. And where can people, do you have a Facebook page that people can follow your journey? Do you have a Patreon or anything like that?
I do have a Facebook page and Instagram. I haven't really gotten good results from both of those. Both of the names on Instagram and Facebook, though, is Sanándome Entre Árboles, which is Spanish. I can type that out for you. Yeah. It means healing me through trees. It's the name of my nonprofit. I've been seeing a lot better results on TikTok, and I think it's because I'm not very good at writing, so I get to be my expressive, kind of crazy self on TikTok. I just kind of started that about a month or two ago, and that one's just Mama Jungla, and they'll be able to working my hair. Okay. So yeah, Mama Jungla on TikTok, that's where they can kind of see me be more personal, but it is one of the newer platforms that I've kind of stepped onto. So if they want to see from start to present, then the Facebook page is the oldest one of my accounts, and that one's Entre Árboles.
Awesome. So if you could send me those, I'll post them in the description in the video so that everyone can just really easily access those. And yeah, get a Patreon up and running or something so people can start donating as well. I'm sure people would love to help you out and stuff. And if anyone's interested in helping out Kat, yeah, just contact her. We'll leave all your details in the description. So thanks again. Have an awesome day. And hopefully we'll stay in touch and speak soon.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you, and I definitely look forward to seeing how we'll grow together. Have a great evening.
You too, sister. See you.
Bye.